Welcome to another episode of the Resilient Mother Podcast. Today, I have a wonderful guest for you, and we get a male point of view on this podcast this time. I have Julio Carrillo. He is recently a nominee for Canada's 40 Under 40 for their Entrepreneur magazine for 2023. His background is in sales and entrepreneurship, and now he is out on a mission to share his knowledge and experience with others. So with no further ado, let me welcome in Julio.
Hey,
Hello.
how are you?
I am great. Thank you for coming today.
Thank you for having me.
So tell us a little bit about you and your journey and what brought you to the podcast today.
Well, I've been in business since 2015, but I've been in sales pretty much all my life. Sales, I think, is nothing but about being resilient, because the amount of no's that you get, you kind of have to learn how to build up that thick skin. What really brings me to the podcast is just I wanted to share a different perspective on things, and I think being resilient is all about your perspective. So hopefully that I can share a little bit of what I know, what I've seen, and what I've learned, and hopefully could relate to someone.
Well, our subject today we're going to be chatting on is empowerment and resilient empowerment. And so what does empowerment mean to you?
Empowerment just means just how to really get control of things. Things can spiral really quickly. We always have that negative little beast behind us in the back of our head, always talking bad things to us, and it's really just pushing it to the side and really moving forward, because there's always someone or something trying to hold us back.
Do you have an example in your life of a time when you did that?
I think one of the hardest times being resilient was when my son was born. 2019. He was a preemie. He was born 3 months premature. And, my wife was going through the C-section, the emergency C-section. And there's a bunch of emotions and fears that get brought up at that time. But from my perspective, from the dad's perspective, the male perspective, I'm looking at her and she's pretty much looking right back at me. And it's one of those things where, what do I do now? Because she needs strength. Who's going to provide it? She needs stability. She needs a rock. She needs someone to look at her and make her say, it's going to be okay. Even though I don't know if it's going to be okay or not. I don't know what's going to happen, but I just know she needs that, because if she can't see me believe in it, she's really going to, that branch is going to break for her.
What did you do to get yourself in that mindset? It sounds like you knew what your why was and you knew who you were doing it for, but what did you personally do for yourself to empower yourself in that moment to be who you need to be and step into your role?
It wasn't really how do I step in, because I don't think there's ever any a book or a prep situation that really kind of says this is what you do in these situations. It was one of those things that just happens. And I mean, everything honestly happened so quickly. It was for literally one night we're keeping you over to the baby's coming out in 30 minutes, gown up.
Wow.
So there was no prep time of saying this is what's going to happen the next hour or two or the next day. But the only thing that I knew that really mattered was what I needed to be at that moment. And I think that has to go through the journey of being resilient. But being resilient to me is how do you push forward? And you have to really learn how to fail in order to be resilient, because if you're not being resilient after failure, then you're not really resilient. There's no challenge. There's nothing to come back from. So in sales, I mean, if anybody knows, or in business or being an entrepreneur, you get a lot more no's than yes, more often than not. So you get scared. There are situations where, you have to pay your employees, and I'm sure a lot of us can relate. Sometimes we don't know where that paycheck is going to come from. Sometimes we've depended on all of our accounts receivables, and no one's paying yet. But somehow, if you just keep faith, at the very last seconds, you get this miracle deposit that happens, and you're able to take care of everybody. But that was one of those things, is that, I learned through my journey that at that moment, this is what I needed to do. This is what I needed to be, because being an entrepreneur or having a business is almost like being a parent, almost. You have people behind you who follow you. this family, employees, these little people, whatever you want to call them, but they look at you and they look for you, and they don't know what you're going through. They don't know, hey, I know my dad's going to feed me. I know my dad's going to take care of. That's what they believe, and you have to really give that face because you're that leader. And that's a little bit of what I've come to realize, at least in the last month, um, when I had to really think about this subject. Is that's the best relatable subject I can put it to, is like being an entrepreneur is like being a parent. People follow you, people need you, people just depend on you. They look for you for inspiration, they look for you for strength, they look for guide them. And
They need you to empower them. And so you have to be a pillar of strength and choose to be the leader in that moment, is what I'm hearing from you. You were being the rock for your wife, and you're a leader for those that you work with in your business. And you just take action, is what I'm hearing from you as well. Empowerment is taking action. It's moving forward no matter what you face and what's thrown at you. And that's I think that's something you've probably prepared yourself for over time as you chose to be an entrepreneur, as you went into sales, is that you just started to not take things personally, like a sale not going through. Don't take it personally. Just move forward to the next one, the next opportunities coming, and kind of that faith in, if you keep going, something's going to happen.
Well, yeah, it's all about commitment, right? Being resilient is almost, I have like these 3 C's that kind of live by to be an entrepreneur. The first one is you have to be courageous. You really have to have that courage to take the step forward, either to start a business or either to do something new. Because in order to have something you never had, you have to do something you never done. So you really have to have that courage to try it. And then after you actually take that step to try it, then you need to be creative, because every situation is not the same. You really need to be creative, learn how to pivot. COVID-19 taught us, you got to pivot your business. You really got to be super creative, even though the scary road's still ahead. But more importantly, touches on what you just said, is you really have to have commitment. You really need to be committed, take action, do the step repetitively over and over and over again, no matter how much it fails, no matter how much it hurts. You really got to learn how to continue on with the process, because it's all about action. And I've never seen anybody who's really committed to anything, whether it's the gym or whether it's business or whether it's, being a great parent, someone who takes action every single day and stays committed. I've never seen them not accomplish what they eventually want.
Exactly. Now, to get more of your father versus mother perspective into the podcast here, can you talk a little bit more about your relationship with your wife and your child, and that journey through? You talked about the difficult time, but what's the rest of the story? What happened after that crisis?
I think the first 3 months was probably the hardest, because he was in the NICU. They don't let him out until until close to the birthday, pretty much, until they feel that he's able to leave the hospital. But after that, it was no different of a process. She was weak. She was after the C-section. I mean, she was in a wheelchair for at least a week. I was bouncing around and this is the side that I was actually talking to one of her friends with, because we weren't arguing, but it was a huge debate about, oh, the mother goes through this, the mother goes through that, the body changes, the hormonal changes, all these aspects. And I just simply told her, I never said anything bad about that. That's one of the beautiful things about being a mother, that you go, and this is why the connection from the mother to child is huge, because they were inside of you, right? Like I would never feel that. But I said, after he was born, did anybody ask me, was I okay? Did anybody ask how was I feeling? Because she was in the hospital here in Vancouver. We have Children's Hospital, but it's connected to Women's, but they're like on 2 opposite ends.
Yeah.
So I would wake up 5 a.m., get ready for work, get my kids ready for school. I had a driver. I had to hire like a chauffeur at the time.
Wow.
Just because I was not sleeping, that I would literally, I knew I was going to crash my car, because I could not, there was just so much, because my day would start with getting them ready, going to the hospital to Women's, spending 2 or 3 hours with her, helping her go to the bathroom, help her at least wash up a little bit, help her with her food, wheelchair her all the way up to the opposite side of the hospital, go to the 17th floor to the NICU, spend time with our son. I would take my laptop, sit there, answer calls and type, and go to lunch, bring all those things, go back home, um, get my kids, their supper, get them finish off with their day, then go back to the hospital, pick her up, take her back to women's. It was just a cycle for 3 months, and it was just nonstop. And I was running my house, my family at the hospital, my business, my calls, everything. And it was just all these things that I just needed to be, because I knew that if I wasn't able to provide that, it was going to be incredibly challenging for my wife to work, because she needed it. She was drawing from strength. She was exhausted. She just went through this emergency C-section where she just got the life pretty much ripped out of her. And if I wasn't there, and that's my job as a partner, and that was part of the commitment that we made to each other, because I know on a different aspect where I've been low, she's been easily being able to carry the family when I needed it. So I think we have each our roles, and as long as we respect our boundaries and respect the roles that we are able to provide, and in all fairness, she manages my family, the kids, the household. I respect that. When she says he's not allowed to watch TV, but come on, it's just a little TV, not allowed to watch TV. I don't let him watch TV. It's that simple. But when I have to do a lot of hours, or leave super early, or come home super late, she respects that too, because she knows the role I'm providing for the family. So it's a lot of communication. It's a lot of respect. As long as you can communicate and respect those decisions and respect each other, it's really hard not making it work. But a lot of people just don't communicate. A lot of guys, to be honest, to be frank, they don't communicate. We just kind of suck it up and go through our day. I think that's one of the things that you have to do, talk.
Yeah, I think that's amazing how you two empower each other in your roles. She empowers you to be the provider, and you empower her to be the nurturer. And that makes a beautiful relationship, because you're both allowed to be your masculine and your feminine roles in the way that they
Mhm,
naturally occur for you guys. And maybe that's
mhm,
different for every relationship. I mean, there are some moms that are the ones working and dads at home, and we have
mhm,
all sorts of different kinds of family these days. But the idea is, whatever role you step into and whatever responsibilities that you have, that you encourage and empower each other. And it's nice to hear that. And I love how you hit on communication, because I think that's huge in relationships. And that's important to have empowering communication. And
mhm,
like, I didn't hear in you, there was an argument over the TV thing. You're like, oh, okay, I respect your decision, because that's coming from your role, and you know what's going on at home. I've been at work all day, kind of thing. And
mhm.
just understanding those things and being open to it and saying yes to each other is a beautiful thing. And so, with that, how about your children? How do you empower your children in your family?
Again, I think it's a lot of talking. I know what I went through as a kid, and there's a lot of great things. And I honestly believe that in order to empower my kids, I really have to teach them, whether I want to see it or not. I have to teach them how to fail, because that's
Mm,
what's going to make them stronger. I can lay out the red carpet for them, but historically speaking, that's never made anybody empowering. That's never given anybody strength when you're doing all the work for them. I've seen like, for example, I like to iron my clothes. It's kind of one of those things I just like to do. It gets my head zoned out. Just something mundane that I do when I'm having a really compactful day. I know it's either watching TV, or I have to do something that makes me feel like a zombie. But so my son was right behind me, and he has this little step stool. And I see him. He's trying to grab this little basket that's on top of a dresser. The dresser is obviously twice the size he is, but he's on his tippy toes trying to reach over. And I'm watching him, and I know he's going to fall. I know he's going to fall, because I could see the thing teeter tottering back and forth. And then he eventually falls. So I said, Sebastian, all right. And then I just put the iron to the side. I sat down with him, and he's looking at me because he thinks I'm going to be upset. And I said, so why did you fall? And he won't answer me. He's like, no, 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 no. And I just I sit him down on my lap. I try to make it a very comfortable situation. And I just ask him, why did you fall? He's like, he wouldn't say anything. Were you trying to reach the basket? Yes. And did you reach the basket? Yes. But was it safe? No. So what happened? I have an ouchie. Well, that's what happens when you're not being careful. And I guess that communication trend of it. And then he looks at me, and then it was just, I let him fall though. Because if I
Yeah.
were to tell him he was gonna fall and take him off of, like, manually take him off of it, not let him fall. Of course, you assess the situation. It's gonna fall on carpet. He
Yeah.
wasn't
Yeah.
gonna get
They get hurt, people. It's all good.
yeah. But the thing was, I let him fall. I let him see his mistake, because that's how most of us learn, is through failure. Um, there's I was recent. I have an older son who's 20, and we were talking about movies and cartoon characters, and the topic was the difference between a hero and a villain. And we love having these deep conversations of it. And then I kind of throughout the day twisted it to hero and victim, which
Ooh,
was the difference between a hero and a villain is the origin story tends to be the same. There's always, let's just say, a traumatic experience,
right.
whether it was, a young kid was bullied, or his mother passed away, or his mother was taken, some trauma happened, right? But one chooses to protect others from that, and the other chooses to hurt others for that. So you get this hero and villain portion of it. But I changed it to, for in the terms of this resilience and empowerment, you could either choose to be the hero of your own story, or you could really choose to be the victim of your own story, because you can take that experience and you can blame the world and not empower yourself through it, or you could really take and become the own hero. And every day we're going through some sort of challenge. There's not one day I can think of that I haven't gone through something. I mean, I have my great days and I have my bad days, but every day, uh, I learn a little bit something new.
Every day is a day to learn. And as a child, it's important to learn these lessons when they're young and have
Hmm.
the support of parents to help guide them along the way versus being so sheltered and
Hmm.
so babied that they don't understand how the real world works. So I think that really is a great example of empowerment for the next generation is let them fail, but be there to pick them up or be there
Hmm.
to at least go, hey, what do you think happened here? Let them use their own mind to develop their own solutions and possibilities and then let them go, give them the wings and let them soar. So I think that's very important. And generally, what do you do as a dynamic in the whole family to bring everyone together and empower each other, not just in their individual roles or as children, but are there things that you do as a family that help bond you together and create special memories? Or when you face difficult times, are there things that you've done in particular to strengthen and empower each other?
Well, I do honestly. So my wife is huge about sitting at the table together.
Mm,
Huge on that. There's not one person who, during dinner time, if times allow it, because I can admit we should do it a lot more often than we do now. But life, kids, both have three kids, 20, 17, and 4. But the other two are a lot older, so they have their own little world going on.
right.
But during dinner time, no one's allowed to stay in their room and eat in their room. Um, so one of the things I actually encourage all the time is I do like to bring up a provocative subject and learn how to debate.
Ah,
I was huge on having them be in both my older kids have been in a service industry, part-time job, because they need to learn how to deal with people. And I encourage the debates just because you have to really learn how to argue your points, or really learn how to just talk and listen and learn how to go through your day and be able to communicate, because that's one thing schools don't teach us. Two things, in my opinion: they don't teach us anything about finance, and they don't teach us how to communicate
yep.
or deal with people. And I don't care. I'm not too particular on their on what their future job is going to be. I just encourage to choose whatever you choose. You're going to try to be the best at it. I don't care what that subject is, but you're going to try to be the best at it. A and B, you really just have to learn and accept the difficult and the hard challenges that come at your way, and you cannot let it knock you down. I've shown them plenty of examples. I'm pretty open about some challenges in my work sometimes with them, and I say, this is what happened to me today, and how do you think I handled it? Because sometimes again, it's just talking about it and communicating it and showing them the how to communicate that, because eventually they're going to communicate that to their partner.
Right.
The our sons, the first woman they're going to look for is the woman most relatively close to their mother, My daughter's going to look to the man most relatively close to me because I'm the first man she's ever loved. She is the first woman they've ever loved. It's just, psychologically speaking.
Mhm.
So we really try to encourage a lot of communication, and challenging those thoughts, because someone will challenge them. This woke, community, as much as some points are valid, some are not, in my
Yeah.
opinion. And they really have to learn, again, communication and really trusting themselves on whatever that decision is. My son, one time, actually, a really interesting story. My son told me at one time, I'm an atheist. And
Ooh.
I'm like, oh, is that so? So I just said, I think he was like 17 at the time. And I said, is that so? Okay, here, bud. What's an atheist? It's like, you just don't believe in God. And I'm like, is that what an atheist is? It's like, yeah. I'm like, are you sure? Yeah. And what happens if I prove you wrong? That's not what an atheist is. And he's like, well, okay. Then we Googled it and we came up, I can't remember what the exact definition was, but we looked it up and it wasn't what he says. Like, look, you can't believe something that someone just tells you. If you can't believe in something, you don't know what it means.
Yeah.
So why don't we reevaluate and go from there? Because I've always taught them to make their own decisions. I never pushed any form of religion on them. I've taught them everything I know about religious subjects. And then at the end of the day, it's their choice. But they have to live with the choices that they pick. So I was trying to just teach them, don't believe in something you can't even define. But yeah, it's just, again, it's communication, empowering them to trust their own opinions and trust their own thoughts and stand behind them, and they have to defend them.
Well, you're empowering your children in a couple of ways there. It sounds like you're empowering your family to be a community and to have open communication. And you're also honoring individuals by empowering them to figure out what they get to decide to do with their life and who they get to decide to be. But you want to make sure they do it in a way that's informed, that they have taken the time to step back and evaluate things for themselves. I think that's really important today with all of the many messages that get thrown at us every day. People are fighting for our attention, and whether that's with shock factor news or things that sometimes just aren't true, just to get your attention. And it's important to sift through those things and understand that some people have an agenda for you, but in the family, the agenda is to empower you and help you be the best individual that you can be. And this is the safe space to figure those things out, is within the family unit.
Absolutely. And I think a big mistake parents make is they treat all the kids the same.
Mm.
My son, all three of them are wildly different. And you have to pivot into every one of their roles. I can talk to my oldest a certain way, and it won't work the same with my daughter, and it definitely won't work the same with my youngest. Yep. So, finding that verbiage of how to communicate with them that's most effective for them is important too.
That's very empowering parenting right there, is meeting the individual's needs and adjusting to each one. And so, yeah, I definitely think that's important. Well, we've got a few minutes left here. Do you have anything special going on you'd like to share, or anything you'd like to do to have people connect with you?
Yeah, if people want to connect with me, I really genuinely believe that everybody's going through a situation, maybe someone connected in a story that I've shared today. But I do believe that expanding your network and expanding with people who are like-minded or you would like to learn from is major. If you need any, if you want to communicate with me, you can go to Instagram at the real Julio Carrillo, and down below. And more than happy to help and communicate and maybe provide some advice that would work for you. Aside from that, I have our company, Platinum Plus Capital. We're all about financial education. We're all about putting money to work, earning compound interest. So if you want to check that out, it's platinumpluscapital.com.
Wonderful. Thank you for coming today. Any last thoughts on empowerment or resilience?
You are, I think, you are more powerful than you think. And as long as you apply action to everything you want to achieve and really make a commitment to doing it, then I really believe you can change your life. You can change the life of others and your family.
Wonderful. And if you want to connect with me, you can find me on Facebook or at Tiffany Lorraine G. I also do coaching, and this is the Resilient Mother signing off till next time. Take care. God bless.